What do you think happened?
I think he was murdered.
Hi, I'm Mike, and this is Jess, and welcome to Goodwin's Farm 207.
In today's video, we're going to be talking about more of a reality check on farming and what happens when things don't always go camera perfect.
Stick around.
So it's been kind of a rough week here on the farm. One of the things that we committed to you guys when we started this channel is to show you the reality of what it's really like to be on a farm or homestead. And sometimes things just don't go very well. And you have some of those weeks where you suffer losses, some significant, and it's just can be pretty frustrating and pretty harsh. And I feel like that's kind of been this week a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, we try to be positive and optimistic through all things, but the fact of the matter is that it's not always sunshine and rainbows.
No. And this week we had one of those situations where, as many of you know, we have ducks and geese and various poultry, goats, and you know, we had picked up some baby ducks earlier in the year, seen cute little pictures of them swimming around in the bathtub. And we had gotten them for meat purposes and then got a little overly attached to them and they became friends. And then we got geese because geese are guardian animals, and we put them in with the ducks and some of our younger chickens that we had at the time to alert us if anything was around those ducks or chickens, and they've done a fantastic job at that. They are very good guard dogs. They definitely let you know if anybody's here. Unfortunately, earlier in the week, I was getting ready to go to work. As you know, I work full-time job outside of the farm, and as is my routine in the mornings, I got up and I was checking on the different animals, and I was just looking out in the duck geese pasture and realized one of the ducks, something didn't look right. So I let Mike know, hey, you know, I think we got an issue with one of our ducks. Can you go check it out? Because I was in the middle of getting ready to go to work.
Yeah, so I went out there, and one of the male ducks, his back was all kinds of messed up.
Yeah, so Mike brought him in and we put him in the bathtub and, you know, doctored him up the best we could. And I was like, well, you know, I'll have to watch him throughout the day and make sure he's doing all right. And had no idea what had happened. He was fine before he went to bed the night before, because we always check on the animals in the evening. And then the next morning, something had ripped his back feathers all off and ripped his back up. But he didn't have any puncture wounds. He didn't have, you know, any where you could tell something had bit him or clawed him or anything like that. It was just like the skin and feathers had been ripped off. So we were a little concerned what could have possibly done this without the geese alerting us or our dogs alerting us or what was going on. But I put him in the bathtub. He was swarming around a little bit. It seemed like he was like coming to a little. So I went to work.
Yeah, I worked from home, and I checked on it, I don't know, periodically every couple hours, and then one of the times I went in to check on it, it had unfortunately passed on.
So at that point we were really concerned on what could have possibly happened to this male duck that we had, and you know, we were sad because they, like I said, they were pets. We had bonded with them and gotten pretty attached, and unfortunately sometimes that happens in farm life and homesteading life. You lose the animals that you're attached to and some that you're not, and it's always frustrating when we lose an animal, because you always second guess, what could have I done differently, what happened, how can I prevent this in the future. And loss is inevitable with a farm or homestead. You're gonna suffer loss, and you try to mitigate that as much as you can by having good practices in your farming and homesteading. So it really left us kind of scratching our heads on what was going on.
I don't know, 3 or 4 days later,
Yeah.
I I was out.
We found the culprit.
Right, we did. We found out who done it.
Yeah.
I was out doing the evening farm chores, and I heard a commotion over in the goose area, and our 2 geese were going after the other male duck that was out there, and they were, picking at his back very aggressively. So I went in there and broke things up and took the injured duck out and put him in a separate, segregated area in our barn where he's safe. And, just doctored him up as best as we could, and, he's doing fine. He's just doing his own thing, quacking away. But apparently the geese just decided to become aggressive, or more aggressive than we've seen.
So what I've surmised through research and talking to other geese owners, because as you know, this is our first time owning geese, that geese are really big about consent. And ducks sometimes, male drakes, especially, the weather's been kind of crazy this year. It's making the animals kind of a little crazy and think it's breeding season when it's not necessarily breeding season yet. And the female duck has had no interest in the drakes at all yet. She's just not interested. So it kind of surmises the males were a little too aggressive in their advances to the females, and the geese were not having it. And they said, absolutely not. You're not going to touch our female duck, because they're very, very bonded with the female, as they are our laying hens that live back there with them as well. And so they surmised that the males got a little overly frisky, and the geese murdered one of them and put the other one in the infirmary.
Yeah. So, that's something different. It is unfortunate that we lost one of the ducks. Hopefully the other one will pull through. Seems like he's doing all right. But as Jess said, things happen, and you just gotta make sure that you're not putting your animals in a situation where they're going to be in harm's way or harm to each other.
And sometimes you can do everything right and everything to do right and do all the research, and accidents are still going to happen. And that's the unfortunate part about farming. And you're going to have those weeks where it feels like just everything went wrong. Like we had the situation with the duck happen. And then many of you know that we have a barn cat, Tom. He's very popular on our videos. He's very popular around here. He's the sweetest, most loving animal I think we've ever owned. And he had gotten into a tuffle with something this week too. He found him injured. And again, brought him in, put him in our bathroom infirmary, which is something else you're going to find when you have a farm. Sometimes it's inevitable you're going to have farm animals inside, because you got to keep everybody safe and separated. And we had to give him some medication. Thankfully he's doing really well. I think he's loving all the extra attention. He is not loving having a cone on his head, a cone of shame, but he would not leave his injury alone. And we were putting medicine and stuff on it that we got for him. And, that's just, it's just what it is. He got into a tuffle with something, and taking care of him. Luckily he has his shots, and next time hopefully he'll stay with his dog, because as long as he stays with Wilson, he's fine. It's when he gets ambitious and wanders that it's an issue. He is neutered, so he has no reason to be wandering.
I guess he just got curious, but you know what they say about curiosity in cats.
I know. We are very lucky they have 9 lives.
Yeah. Sometimes, speaking of loss, sometimes it's an intentional thing. We had a really aggressive rooster.
Yeah, that happened this week too.
That dispatched because he would attack us when we would go in to get eggs. So just eventually got fed up with having to have the egg collection be a 2-person job. One person to fend off the rooster and the other person to get the eggs.
Plus, many of you know we have our kids help out a lot too, and there's just so many nice roosters out there that there's no reason to keep a mean rooster and pass those mean genetics down, because there's just so many nice ones out there. Because we have one that's super, super friendly with people, really nice to the ladies, and but yeah, he's very protective of them when it comes to any like animals threatening them. So he does his job, and he respects his farmers and his ladies, which there's a lot of them out there.
Yeah, and this particular one did none of those things.
No,
So
he was mean to the ladies and his owners.
Yeah, so he's no longer with us, and I'm not sad about that at all,
No.
because
I mean, I'm sad he was mean, but
well, sure, he
was well handled and loved on too when he was a baby. So sometimes it's just genetics.
Yeah,
So only so many chances you can give a rooster.
right.
And that's one of the things with farming. It's filled with hard decisions too, because if you want to make it on a homestead, or you want to make it as a hobby farm, or even a big farm, whatever, you have to make those tough decisions. And unfortunately, finances are a big part of it too, because it's very easy to get attached to animals and rack up thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars of vet bills that you're never going to recover from. And that's the unfortunate thing sometimes with farming and homesteading, because it's a smaller operation where you do get attached to your animals, and you get on these Facebook groups, and some of them are really helpful, and some of them, all they do is they tell you to bring them to the vet, which that's great if you have a livestock vet in your area that is readily available and doesn't cost you a second mortgage on your house. But unfortunately, sometimes that's not an option for some people, because there's no vets around, or if there is, there's no emergency vet for livestock. And if there is, you have to weigh out the cost of it. Like, is this animal that we got to consume as a source of food for our family worth a $5,000 vet bill when you can replace the animal for $150? And so it's just, sometimes there's those really tough decisions, and it's definitely not for the faint of heart. It can be really challenging at sometimes when you have to make those decisions.
As you said, that's part of the game.
Unfortunately, that's part that sometimes people don't always want to talk about, is what do you do when those really hard decisions need to be made. And then, sometimes it's just disappointment. Somebody shows up and you're all set to sell a goat or something, and then they start limping for absolutely no reason at all. They were fine an hour ago, and they got in a tuffle with their whatever with another one of the goats, and now they just want to, something's acting up on them, and it's full of disappointments. Which again, I don't fault anybody if they come in, they see you go, they're limping or whatever, they're like, oh no, take a second thought. You should. And you should definitely never get something that's not going to work for your farm and what it is your goals and ambitions are. We say it all the time, your farm, your rules, the same, our farm, our rules. And you do want to be careful when you're buying livestock to make sure you're getting something that fits what you need and what you want. And I know if anybody gets livestock from us or an animal from us, we want them to be happy with what they got. So we try to be very, very transparent and very honest. Like, I'm pretty diligent about record keeping. I know exactly what medication, if any, that they've had and when they've had it. And if we do CDT shots, I know the exact date. Copper, I know when they've had it. All of that stuff, so that we can pass that on when we pass that animal on. If we pass them on.
You are pretty good about the record keeping, which is good, because I have a really hard time keeping track of all that. So that's good.
Google Docs. But yeah, I mean, we don't sell a lot of animals because that's not really the intent here. But sometimes, again, as we narrow in our focus on what it is we want to spend our time and our focus on, sometimes it means, letting go of an animal or selling an animal, or so that we can focus more on, where we want our hobby farm and homestead to go. But so a lot of this is just growing and learning. You try a bunch of things. Some things you enjoy, some things you don't enjoy. Some things you kind of need to do, but you don't necessarily enjoy, like cleaning stalls. But you just kind of find what works for you, and then once you do that, you kind of hit that groove, and that's what you focus your time and effort on.
Yeah, no one likes cleaning stalls.
No, I don't know if anybody likes cleaning stalls.
No.
If you do, I've got a bunch. You can come clean.
Yep.
So. Anyway, we do appreciate you guys watching this video. We appreciate your support, and we don't really want this to be a depressing video, although it is kind of sad. And we do try to keep things lighthearted around here, but we also want to be real with you guys. We want you to see the reality of what it's like when you're doing a small-scale hobby farm or homestead, and some of the challenges that you may face, or some that you will face if you haven't already. If you find this content helpful, if you have a specific subject you'd like us to talk about, feel free to comment it below. We love hearing from you guys. We love getting emails from you, messages. You can look us up on Facebook, Instagram as well. Message us that way. We enjoy the feedback that we get from you guys.
Yeah, it's always good to interact with you all, and we value every piece of encouragement or comment that we get. So it makes all of this much more worth it.
Yeah, so if you haven't already, please like the video, please subscribe, check out our other videos as well, and thanks for watching.
Yeah, and we'll see you on the next one.